In this episode of Pickleball Breakdown, the team in the near court wins this point by doing nothing but playing defense. Stick around, we'll break it down. Here's how this works. You send us highlights, great plays, good plays, and not so good plays. With the help of Coach Alex Fox, we break it down. You learn, we watch, and we all get better. This is Pickleball Breakdown. All right, here in the near court, we have Dalton and Dave, and then in the far court, we have Nate and Calvin. Now, keep your eye on Calvin for just a minute. He's got these really nice, easy top spin strokes that are just keeping Dave and Dalton back. And even though they make their way up to the line eventually, I want to talk about that because those shots are just really well done.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head pretty much. So you want to really brush up on the back of the ball and not get too linear, meaning like coming straight at the net, basically. If it's below the net, you have to clear the net, right? So you have to get below the plane of that ball and brush up the back of it and keep them back. Once you start to get too aggressive, too greedy right there, you're going to start clipping the top of the tape or hitting out on it too much and hitting it long.
Let's step out on this court right here and you can show me some of that.
All right, sounds good.
All right, Alex, walk me through this. You're at the line, your opponents are back, and you want to keep them back with that top spin.
Right, so what you don't want to do is get too linear and hit out on the ball when it's below the net like this, because you're just going to be flirting with danger with it, hitting the top of that net, right? But anyway, what we want to do is that ball's going to have a nice little kick to it and give them another element to think about once it gets down towards their feet at the baseline. So you don't really want it to get there super fast anyway. You want it to have a little bit of a loop to it and let that top spin work some magic. So you really just want to hit up on it and keep them back like that. One thing I do see a lot though is people will confuse when to do that and when not to do that, or just go over something different. If the ball's elevated, we don't have to worry about clearing the net because it's already done that for us, right? So if we get a ball up here, we don't need to then lift it even more. We need to hit out on it. But on the ball below the net, we can't do that same thing.
Okay, the next thing I want to point out is Nate over there in the left-hand side, who just drives Dalton and Dave back to the baseline where they came from. Nate is just pounding at them, and they drive them back again. So what I liked about this point was Dalton and Dave were super patient. They got to the net, but they also knew when to drop back because they were under fire from Nate.
Right, and to me, they played this point just really, really well. I mean, like you said, they didn't rush it, right? They waited until they had what they were working for. You can't. There's no shortcut for that. You got to hit your shot, and what I really, really like is that they were super selective on what they chose to advance in on, right? They weren't going to get caught in transition, with their feet moving to where it's a much harder shot. They were content with, okay, yep, I'll play my shot. Oh, it's not quite what I wanted. They hung back until they really got what they wanted and made it unattackable so they could advance.
Put yourself in Nate's shoes here, and anything you see there that he could or should have done differently, because he's just really coming with the hard stuff and driving them back, but he's not able to get anything that they can't handle.
I would have maybe liked to see him hit out on the ball a little bit more. If you notice on a couple of these, he kind of spikes them to where it gives them a long bounce to work with, and a lot of energy is taken out of that ball once it hits the ground. So try to drive it at their feet. Kind of cliche, but hitting it at their feet's a tough shot.
And then, unfortunately, Calvin hits what looks to me to be an out ball, and it's the beginning of the end of this point, because not long after that, Nate tries to put a little bit too much cut on the ball, it looked like, and it goes into the net.
Know where you're at on the court. It's hard to tell with the shadows and stuff. It does appear to be going out.
Let me ask you this about hitting an out ball, because we all do it, and everybody gets the glare from their partner, right? That you just hit an out ball, but it's one of those things where everybody does it. Just move on. Just forget about it. Just, right? You have to, and usually it's not something like this going wide. Typically, it's the common mistakes that are made with out balls is they're hit too high and too hard to where they're going out long, past the baseline.
and not letting those balls go. But yes, you got to move on. I mean, it happens. So you have to play the next shot and just accept it, and don't let that get into your head and mess you up going forward. What Nate does here is it looks like he tries to get a little too fancy. Really, you just got to play the percentages, know where you're at in the point. You're clearly on offense right now if you're Nate and Calvin. So don't try to get too cute. Keep the assault coming and keep them pinned. Look for opportunity, but don't try to outsmart yourself.